As the thumbnail would suggest, there are several teams that are in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, but there's one team to me that stands out more than the rest, and is actually about a tier worse than the rest of the contenders. Houston's defense is going to be too good. Tampa Bay has really strong skill positions, and Indianapolis has a good pairing of quarterback and coach, so that leaves the Arizona Cardinals to be the worst team in the NFL. I don't like having to bet against Kyler Murray because when he's healthy, he's a very special player, but the issue is he's not going to be healthy as he tore his ACL, and as we'll see, the rest of the roster is really, really weak, and I could see them being 0-5 by the time Kyler is ready to return. So at that point, why not push back his return a little bit further and make sure he's fully healthy? Looking at their offensive line, the tackle situation is actually pretty good. DJ Humphries and Kelvin Beachum are both really solid players, but the interior is really weak, as I would say it's not a stretch to assume that Paris Johnson might be their best player on the interior, and that's as a rookie at a position that usually takes a little bit to develop. And yeah, this is a position that Johnson has played 1 year of college at. He played right guard, so there might be a little bit of a transition period for him moving to left. He was a left tackle his final year of college, where he played exceptionally well. I don't love this offensive line, and to be honest, their offensive line might be better than their weapons. Moving to their weapons, I really don't like that Marquise Brown has to be their number one wide receiver because, as we see with his PFF grade, he ranked 48th out of wide receivers, which has him in that sort of gray area between being okay number one or a pretty good number two. And I think ideally, obviously, he's a number two then, but he's forced to be their number one because there's nobody else on this team. Zach Pascal is going to be a starter for them, and he is notoriously a fourth wide receiver that's good as a blocker. So I don't love that. I also think Rondale Moore is pretty special with the ball in his hands, but you're pretty limited with what you can do with him as he's 5'7". So not everything is available to you for your passing concepts, as Brown and Moore are both limited with size, and Pascal is just not very talented as a wide receiver. Tight end wise, Ertz is well past his prime at this point, so he's still okay, but he's not really someone that defenses are going to have to plan for. And James Conner is a solid running back, but I would say he's about average. So there's not really a lot you can feel confident in for this offense. Shifting to the defensive line and their front seven as a whole, honestly, this might be the worst unit in the entire NFL. I don't know who you would point at as being a positive starter for their defensive line. Linebacker wise, Kaiser White is solid, but he's entrusted to be their best player on their entire front seven. And I would say he's their best player by a pretty wide margin, in fact. I just am kind of in awe at how poor their defensive line and linebacker core is going to shape out, particularly with their linebacking core. They draft a linebacker seemingly every single year in the first, and they're still left with Kaiser White and Zaven Collins. Collins, I'll give some benefit of the doubt for. He had an okay rookie year, and linebacker is another position that really takes a while to get going. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he'll be a weak starter throughout his career, but for this season, I don't have very much faith in him, especially because his role might be shifting to be more of an edge rusher because, as I was saying, they have nobody to rush the passer. Their front seven is just, there's no seeming strength to it. I don't see them being good in run defense. I don't see them being able to pressure the quarterback. And linebacker wise, Kaiser White can cover, and Zaven Collins has the makings of a linebacker that can cover. But I wouldn't say that I feel comfortable in them being able to do that either. So there's really nothing you can point at with this front seven and feel truly confident in. Lastly, for their defensive backs, it's again not really a strength of theirs. I do like their safety duo, assuming they keep Buda Baker and don't trade him, which I don't necessarily see as a guarantee. But what we know for sure is that their corner room is not particularly strong because their cornerback one is an undrafted free agent in Antonio Hamilton, who has 1 year of experience. And granted, it was a pretty solid year this past year, at least according to PFF grading. But I wouldn't feel great about my number one corner being a untested UDFA. And I particularly wouldn't feel great knowing that the cornerback two is going to be Marco Wilson, who has shown himself to be a weak link so far in his NFL career. I like Isaiah Simmons as a huge nickel. I think that's probably the role he's going to be in for the foreseeable future with his career. He's shown to be better there than he was as a linebacker or as a safety, I feel. So I like him by the line of scrimmage like that, but he's also shown that he can cover really well in space. And that's nice. They have some redeeming qualities in the secondary, but again, they might have the worst defensive line in the entire NFL. So they're going to be stressed a lot. And I think that'll particularly be the case because Jonathan Gannon is, in my eyes, a coach that's not going to uplift the talent of the team. He's going to kind of just be par for the course with what the talent looks like. When the Eagles didn't have very much talent on defense, they were an unspectacular bunch that didn't really run stunts or confusing coverages. They just ran pretty base looks. And against good teams in particular, that's going to get you picked apart. When the talent was at an absurd level this past year for the Eagles, then we saw some more stunts and some more exotic looks, but I'm not going to project that that's going to be the case this year. I think he just kind of runs the garden variety with weaker talent levels of defense, and this Cardinals is definitely that. They're not going to be any resemblance to the Eagles of last season. So I think this is going to be a real struggle for them. I think the Cardinals have the makings of the worst team in the NFL, even with Kyler Murray, just because Kyler Murray is not going to be at 100%. And defensively, there's just not a whole lot there. That's what my thoughts are on the Cardinals. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section below. And also be sure to like and subscribe for more NFL and NBA content.